People keep asking how we lit this short film, but honestly, the biggest challenge wasn't even the lighting. It was trying to turn one house into 5 completely different worlds. Before we rolled a single frame, we built almost every scene in advance. There were C-stands everywhere, combo stands everywhere, lights hidden throughout the house, because if we stopped after every scene and rebuilt everything from scratch, we would have never made our day. So the goal became simple: build the film before we start filming. For the entrance scene, this was all about believable motivation. We used an Aperture 600D inside an Amaran 150 softbox with custom unbleached muslin replacing the default diffusion. That source sat camera left and was basically pretending there was a giant window hidden behind that wall. The unbleached muslin added a really nice warmth to the skin tones and gave us a softer, more organic look. Then behind Grandma, we used an Amaran 300C with an Aperture SE spotlight attachment and aimed it through the small windows by the front door. That gave us a subtle edge light and helped separate her from the background. Only 2 light sources, but motivated lighting always feels bigger than it really is. Now, once we get into the bedroom, this is where the mood really starts changing. Outside the windows, we built fake sunlight. We used an 8x8 diffusion frame with an 8x8 highlight and pushed an Aperture 1200D with an f10 Fresnel through it. I kept the Fresnel flooded instead of spotted. Spotting gives you more intensity, but it also starts to create less natural looking shadows. Since we already had plenty of output from the 1200D, I didn't need more power. I wanted believable sunlight. Then we blocked off some of the windows with duvetine. Not because I wanted less light, but because I wanted more shape. Light without shape gets boring really fast. And here's something funny. The closet reveal wasn't actually a closet. This was actually a bathroom. We pushed a really warm Amaran 300C through the doorway and controlled it with barn doors, so it created this warm spill into the room. Then we added practical lighting, using an Aperture B7C in the lamp and used a tube light for subtle separation. Mixing that warm practical light with cooler daylight source created a much more dynamic looking image. Now for the closet itself, the setup was actually pretty simple. Our main source was another 600D inside a 150 softbox with unbleached muslin. Big source, soft source, warm source. That became our emotional key light. Then overhead, we had an Amaran F22 angled toward Grandma when she first enters the closet, and then when it transitions to them sitting down, it was a more overhead traditional style. Outside the doorway, we reused another spotlight setup from scene 1. Honestly, one of the biggest things that saved us on this shoot was reusing lights. We weren't rebuilding scenes, we were repositioning. For the Vanity scene, this space was super tight. The Vanity sat almost directly next to the window, so we boomed an Amaran F22 overhead as our key light. Then we used another spotlight setup in the background to create texture through the mirror reflection. And because we were losing daylight later in the day, we bounced the 300C into the ceiling at around 10% just to raise ambient levels. Not enough to feel lit, just enough to keep the room feeling like daytime. And honestly, the biggest lesson I took away from this entire shoot is this: lighting really isn't about lights. It's problem solving. You're not asking yourself, where should I put a light? You're asking yourself, how should this scene feel? Because once you answer that question, the lighting decisions start to become a whole lot easier. Hey, if you guys enjoyed this video or got value out of it, really appreciate it if you dropped a comment and subscribe to the channel. Hey, we appreciate you guys a ton, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.